A letter arrives in the mail with news of a strange and lucrative inheritance.
The letter goes on to say, if I got a letter like this, I would think it to be a scam.
And I was like, why are we named? Somebody's scamming us.
So, is it a scam?
I said, you know, Ray, there's a fine line between a genius and idiot. He said, yeah, and he said, I cross that 2 or 3 times a day.
Who is this mysterious benefactor?
He's a hidden man.
He didn't have the family life. He didn't have a friend to talk to.
He really, truly was a fan.
But an inheritance?
That's a strange inheritance and a stranger story still.
I'm Jamie Colby, and today I'm on old Route 66 in central Illinois. I'm heading to the small farming town of Lincoln, where the strangest of inheritance stories unfolded. On a Monday morning in July 2012, farmer Bob Ferris heads out to mow hay on some land he leases from an old friend named Ray Falk.
And it was very uncommon for Ray not to come out and talk to me. And then I smelled something. I happened to look over and the bin door was open, and that was not a good sign. I just went over there and then I found him. And then I called 911 and...
The county coroner, acting on info from a neighbor, contacts attorney Don Bailey to inform him his 71-year-old client has died of heart failure. Bailey cannot even remember Falk.
I haven't seen him in 15 years, and so I have no idea who they're talking about.
How strange is it that we're here right now talking to you about this guy you barely remember?
It's very strange.
Don checks his files and realizes he indeed worked with someone named Ray Falk back in 1997.
He wanted me to change his will, and he brought it in to me, and I was named as executor. But all I had was a copy. It was 15 years later, he could have changed his will.
Don drives out to Ray's farmhouse to find the original will. There, he discovers an unsettling scene.
It was absolutely covered with cobwebs and would remind you of a show where you'd had Dracula involved.
I mean, my house might sometimes be untidy. Are we talking about more than that?
We're talking about a hoarder show. The whole place reeked.
Somehow, the lawyer locates Ray Falk's will. It directs $5,000 to a Chicago animal shelter, but the next part is a puzzle.
I bequeath all my tangible personal property to my friends, Kevin M. Brophy of San Fernando, California, and Peter Barton of Valley Stream, Long Island, New York.
Who are these guys, and how does Don find them? That will take more digging through the debris.
In Ray's room, he had pictures of wolves torn out of magazines and put on the wall. I had no idea how it all fit together at that point in time.
He'll start to fit it all together soon. Among Ray's many diaries written in neat cursive, Don finds a scrapbook with a big clue.
It said Lucan. I opened it up, and it had Kevin's picture in there.
Lucan was a TV series starring Kevin Brophy as a boy raised by wolves. It was canceled after just 12 episodes in 1978 when Ray Falk was 37 years old.
It's pretty clear to me that show meant something to Ray, and he identified with it.
Don digs further and discovers the other man in the will, Peter Barton, also an actor. Why Falk named him, however, is a bigger riddle. From 1988 to 92, Barton played Dr. Scott Granger in the soap opera The Young and the Restless.
Tell me I'm gonna be able to thank you.
Before that, he starred in a short-lived TV series called The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Two basically unknown actors that Ray had a fondness for. Did you have any idea how much they were going to inherit?
The inheritance consisted of approximately 165 acres, some CDs that were at the bank, and the cash that I found around the house.
How much is it all worth? Don's not exactly sure, but figures hundreds of thousands of dollars easy, maybe even $1 million or more. So the dutiful attorney writes letters to the two retired actors, informing them of their very strange inheritance.
He has named you as his friends beneficiaries of his estate. I was stunned. I was shocked.
I took the other side of it completely, going, Kevin, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
That's next.
But first, our strange inheritance quiz question. Which strange personality willed that a seance be held for him every year? Was it master of the macabre Edgar Allan Poe, escape artist Harry Houdini, or horror film icon Vincent Price? The answer in a moment. So which strange personality willed an annual seance be held for him? It's B, Harry Houdini, who died in 1926. He wanted to reveal himself to his wife once a year.
Let's reset. In August 2012, two former actors, Kevin Brophy and Peter Barton, each receive a letter informing them they are the co-inheritors of the estate of someone named Ray Falk. Ray had never met either of them. Leaving a huge amount of money to someone you've never met sounds more than eccentric, which leads me to a question for Ray's attorney, Don Bailey.
It says, as every will does, Ray Falk of Lincoln, Illinois, being of sound and disposing mind and memory. Was he?
Yes, he knew what he owned. He may have been odd, but he was of sound mind.
My next stop is Southern California to meet Kevin Brophy.
My name is Kevin Brophy, and in 2012, I received a letter that was really about to change my life.
It's here in the land of sun, surf, and palm trees Kevin started his career more than 30 years ago.
This is an episode of Lucan. It was a boy raised by wolves. That was the premise of the pilot. And the pilot went to 12 episodes over a 2-year period.
As so many actors will say, it was a good ride while it lasted. Didn't last for you.
My window was in my 20s, and I had my program and a great career. Then the phone stops ringing.
When the phone stops ringing, Kevin finds a new line of work. He takes a job as a doorman in 1983 at the posh Hotel Bel Air and keeps it for the next 27 years.
And the hotel closed, and they went for remodeling, and I was praying for a job, and then the letter. I refer to it as the letter comes. This is the original letter from the attorney saying, you don't know me, but I represent Ray E. Falk. He was a hermit and a hoarder and a farmer here in Illinois. And Don Bailey, who wrote the letter, goes on to say, if I got a letter like this, I would think it to be a scam.
Turns out Kevin once worked with the second beneficiary in Ray Falk's will, fellow actor Peter Barton.
I did a movie in 1980 called Hell Night. Kind of a campy horror story, but we became friends with most of the cast members, including Peter.
Peter now lives in upstate New York.
So you really don't hear much about Kevin until you find out somebody died, and you're the only two, quote-unquote, friends he names in his will.
From the moment I opened that up and I saw Kevin's name, and I was like, somebody's scamming us.
The two men discuss what to do next.
I said, Peter, I believe it. I believe it. And I'm going with it for gusto.
I took the other side of it completely, going, Kevin, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
But Peter agrees to make the 900-mile trip to Lincoln, Illinois to find out for both of them. Peter's home video begins to unravel the mystery.
Behind the silos, Ray had a grave site with all his dogs. Look at this. All the pet cemetery. Queenie, 32177, 10, 15, 87, 82, 80, 94. Buddy, Fred, Fad. Wow. A lot of dogs.
The pet cemetery abuts 167 acres of prime soil, tillable for corn and soybean.
Wow, that's a lot of farmland out there.
All this, a gift from a man they never met. So who was this guy, and why would he do this? Dennis and Nitzy Gleason live a stone's throw away from Ray Falk.
How would you describe in a word Ray?
Weird.
I'd say weird, goofy.
Eccentric.
Eccentric, maybe for good reason. The neighbors explain that Ray Eugene Falk, born in 1941, was an only child and an outcast at school, bullied by classmates and often by his own mother.
His mother was real mean. I think he got along with his father more, but Ray would tell me these different things that his mother would do to him.
For example?
Well, she'd leave him out of the house. He couldn't come in the house for a while. He'd have to stay outside. He said he'd go sleep with the puppies.
Never really had a friend.
The only persons he trusted was, his dogs and me and Bob Ferris.
Bob had known Ray since they were teenagers.
He probably had some type of a learning disability, and in today's education, they would have caught that, but they just didn't have that type of thing back there in the 50s. So I think Ray fell through the cracks.
When Ray graduates from high school in 1958, he joins the Army. He loves it, Bob says, but his mother lobbies to get him an early release to help on the farm.
It's too bad, because I think Ray would have been better off if he would have remained in the Army and away from Mom, and probably his life would have turned out a whole lot differently.
In the diaries he kept for decades, Ray compares himself to a wolf, the most maligned, least understood animal, he writes, that shares my same distrust of humanity.
He was very intelligent. And he and I would even joke about it. I said, Ray, there's a fine line between genius and idiot. And he said, yeah, and he said, I cross that 2 or 3 times a day.
In 1981, Ray's mother dies. For the next 15 years, Ray shares the farmhouse with his dad. In the late 1990s, his father is in poor health and doesn't have much time left. Ray confides in his friend Bob that he suspects some of his cousins are after the farm and his dad's investments. Ray fears they're trying to have him declared mentally incompetent to take control of his father's estate.
He was telling me about it, and I said, Ray, you need an attorney.
Ray's been using his father's attorney, but he now suspects that lawyer is in cahoots with his cousins and scheming against him.
And that's when I mentioned Don Bailey.
And he told me about his dad and problems he was having with cousins wanting to take over the control and care of his father.
Did he say why he wanted his family to not benefit from the estate? What'd they do to him?
I think the fact that any relative went to an attorney to take away his father was the act that he thought was treacherous.
Don assures Ray he'll help. Then in 1997, Ray's father dies. So Ray makes one more trip to Lincoln to amend his will and name Don Bailey as his executor.
He no longer wanted the executor that he had previously named because those were the attorneys that had irritated him by talking to his other family members.
Were you surprised?
It seemed to me that even though Ray was odd, he knew his relatives, didn't like him.
But Don knows full well that's not always the end of it, especially in situations like this, where a hermit, described as weird, eccentric, and goofy, bequeaths a family fortune to a couple of complete strangers.
But you have to give relatives a chance to come forward, right?
Well, yeah, the relatives have the opportunity to contest a will. They have 6 months to do that.
How'd that go?
That's next, and more.
Do you ever feel guilty taking an inheritance from a stranger?
Here's another quiz question for you. Which of these pampered pets was willed the largest inheritance? Fashion designer Alexander McQueen's Bull Terriers? King of Pop Michael Jackson's Chimp? Or real estate mogul Leona Helmsley's Maltese? The answer in a moment. So which pampered pet received the largest inheritance? It's C. Leona Helmsley left her beloved Maltese, Trouble, a $12 million trust in 2007.
Two former actors get the surprise of a lifetime in 2012 when Ray Falk, a man they've never met, leaves them a large inheritance. But it's no done deal yet. Ray's relatives have 6 months to challenge the will, and Ray long suspected that some of them pegged him as mentally incompetent.
You don't think of it as taking it away from other relatives of his?
Absolutely not, because Ray's story is a heartbreaking story caused by pain and loneliness. So for Ray to have looked on myself and Peter with this incredible gift, this is doing exactly what Ray wanted.
Exhibit A, Kevin Brophy says, Ray's scrapbook, dedicated to his starring role in Lucan.
These are the chronicles that follow the young wolfman in the world of man in his quest to find his roots, and it's all hand put together. And the picture that I sent him, there's the photograph.
And he wrote this scrapbook would not be complete without a corresponding section devoted to Kevin Brophy.
He really, truly was a fan.
Maybe, but Kevin admits this is the stuff restraining orders are made of.
You know, it could have come back as a stalking, horrible nightmare, but Ray was just very, very introverted and loved television. And thank goodness for Lucan.
But an inheritance?
That's a strange inheritance and a stranger story still.
Okay, with the scrapbooks, the wolf pictures, the dog cemetery, you get Ray Falk's affinity for Lucan. But what's up with the soap opera doc? Peter Barton finds the answer in Ray's letters.
I started reading these letters and I'm like, wow, this guy is talking about astral projecting. He's talking about things that my character did.
Not Barton's Young and the Restless character, but in his role in The Powers of Matthew Starr, a 1982 series about an alien with supernatural abilities.
It's like he was searching and he saw Matthew Starr and he went, oh my God, you know?
A little crazy?
I think he was a really smart guy who kind of built a cage around himself and then couldn't get out. That's what I wanted when I was doing Matthew Starr. I wanted to affect people like Ray.
Did you ask Don, the lawyer, if Ray had any other family that he might have given it to?
For myself, it never really crossed my mind.
You can leave anything to anyone, but you have to give relatives a chance to come forward, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the relatives have the opportunity to contest a will. They have 6 months to do that.
How'd that go?
Nobody contested it.
So Kevin Brophy and Peter Barton are now the proud owners of 167 acres of corn and soybean fields. But is that the end of this strange inheritance story? Not by a country mile.
Two Hollywood characters come to town that Ray never mentioned, and they're here to leave with cash.
We were just a little leery about who they were that was getting the money.
And exactly how much money? That's coming up, plus this.
Did Ray save your life?
Ray indeed saved my life.
Now, back to Strange Inheritance.
A fan leaves two former actors, Kevin Brophy of LA and Peter Barton of New York, a surprise inheritance that includes 167 acres of farmland in central Illinois.
What do you say to yourself? What the heck am I going to do with this? Can I sell it? Could you sell it?
Peter had kind of thought of being a farmer there in Illinois, but no, I can't do winters and I can't do farming.
So the heirs ask Ray's attorney, Don Bailey, to sell it and see what they get. Plenty of locals want Ray's fertile land. The highest bid, $800,000. Add in another $500,000 in cash and stocks, and the entire estate is worth $1.3 million. In Lincoln, after the sale, Peter and Kevin headline a fundraiser in Ray's name for a local humane society.
Ray had a very strange upbringing and an odd life, but he loved his dogs. He loved his dogs probably more than himself.
Two Hollywood characters come to town that Ray never mentioned, and they're here to leave with cash.
We were just a little leery about who they were that was getting the money. But after meeting them, they were two down-to-earth, good people that Nitzy and I, we just love them to pieces.
How did the money change your life?
That's been a godsend, because when life looks like Easy Street, there is danger at your door. 1 year later, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. This was a devastating diagnostic for me. in this world of healthcare where a doctor visit can be $200. It has certainly helped alleviate any concern I have for myself and my other extended family.
Did Ray save your life?
Ray indeed saved my life.
Today, Kevin is still working as a doorman. His new door has another swanky address.
I'm on Rodeo Drive. I have an incredible suit I get to wear. I have met so many people. I'm thinking of running for the mayor of Beverly Hills.
So the acting didn't make you rich. Did the inheritance make you rich?
The inheritance gave me confidence that I'm safe. Maybe I want to say to Ray, thank you, Ray. You made me safe.
Peter is currently working on a screenplay about this entire strange inheritance story. And who knows, it may get these two retired actors back into pictures. Two lives touched forever by a man they'd never met. I'm Jamie Colby for Strange Inheritance. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, you can't take it with you. Do you have a strange inheritance story you'd like to share with us? We'd love to hear it. Send me an email or go to our website, strangeinheritance.com.